maybe let's start with that. Who's from IT? Who's from outside IT? Who's from the IT side here? And who's from outside IT? Okay, there's a few. Good. Excellent. Who's heard about Agile and who hasn't? Who hasn't? I'll do it for you then. All right, thanks for having me. Thanks, Ed, for the introduction. If you're wondering about my accent, I'm from Spain. I'm from Barcelona. I've been here for 11 years, but my accent doesn't go. Anyone from Spain or South America here? No? If you can you understand me? Otherwise, look at the slides. All right, just very briefly about myself. As I said, I'm Eduardo from Barcelona. I'm a lean and agile coach, founder of 2 consultancies, which I'll explain in a minute. My agile journey, if you like, started in the REA group, at the REA group, realestate.com.au. I'm a business person, not an IT person, so I didn't know much about Agile when I started working for REA. I was the head of customer experience. I was leading a few teams in REA. One of them was the sales operations, the contact center, and the contracts team. I didn't know anything about contact center before I started working for REA, but I met this gentleman called Nigel Dalton. He's the CIO of REA. And they call him the godfather of Agile in Australia. And he grabbed me under his wing and said, "Have you heard of Agile?" I said, "A little bit." And since then, he started talking to me about this way of working, and really resonated. And we started trying this way of working outside IT with the contact center at REA, with the sales operations team, and with the contracts team, and it worked beautifully well. It really transformed from an employee engagement, from a customer satisfaction, from the main metrics they will have in all those 3 teams. So I did write a blog about it. That was in 2012. I did write a blog about it because I thought that people needed to know, especially from a contact center. I don't know, is anyone from the contact center here? Or do we know? If traditionally contact centers are very command and control teams and organizations. I don't know if you've worked in any, or you've heard, or you've got a friend or a brother, but it's places that even they tell you what time you have to go to the bathroom. So we try different approaches, and we'll talk about some of that later. It worked beautifully well. I wrote a blog. People started contacting me, "Can we come and see it? Can we come and see what you've done?" So we did, and I thought, well, maybe there's a business, and the first business that I started 2 years ago was called the Agile Contact Center, which was focused on helping contact centers transform from a traditional way of working to a more agile way of working. But since we started, more and more areas of the business, finance, marketing, operations, and can we do that as well with our teams? I said, well, I think it would work the same way. So we started working with more teams or with whole organizations and helping them become more agile. We just launched a new brand, a new company. It's going to call the Agile 11. You can see the relationship on the logo. You like the logo? We just launched this logo this week. You like it? It's good? Thumbs up, down? Yes? All right. That's what it is. You don't like it? Huh? So, and we're specializing in Agile beyond software, so helping either teams that are not in the software development area or organizations as a whole how to become more agile. So some of the teams we work, yes, of course, we work with contact center teams, but we also work with marketing teams, we work with people and culture teams, recruitment teams, finance teams, operations teams here in Australia, but also we work with operations team in India, sales teams as well, we do Agile with them, tax teams, strategy teams, sustainability teams, any type of teams we believe we can apply this way of working. And my favorite, this is a construction development. This is a team that is running a shopping center development in New South Wales of $600 million, and now they're using Agile to run that project. So that's one of my favorites. Early this year, I was part of a conference called First Conference, which if you are interested in Agile and you're starting, I truly recommend to go. I think they just launched the new line of speakers will be in March, yes. And I did a talk last year, and it was a lady called Christiane Anderson. Some of you might know really well in the room. She did this visual representation of the talk that I did about Agile Beyond Software. And then she wrote an article about it on LinkedIn. And she told me last week that article with that image and the explanation of the talk, which is very similar to the talk that I'm going to do now, had more than 6,000 views, 500 likes, and 156 shares. It probably went ballistic. And what that tells me is that if in 2001 Agile was about a better way of developing software, what it seems clear in that today that has become a better way of working, not just a better way of developing software. So what's our approach? And I'm going to do this part of the presentation the same way that I would do it if I was working with you guys. If you were part of the marketing or finance team, then we start working with you. And I will explain the same things that we explain to any of the teams that we work with. And we start by asking, what is Agile? What is Agile for you? What is Agile for someone that has had it or not had it? So I'm going to throw the question to you guys. What is Agile for you? Ed said that you're a bit shy, but don't have to be. There's not a right or wrong answer. This is not an exam. Who wants to have a go? What is Agile?
Being able to respond to change.
Being able to respond to change. Yeah, I like that. Who else wants to say anything? You might have seen it, you've heard of it. This is the 8th thing about business agility. You should know by now, then. Anyone else? Sometimes we get, when we go to companies and they say, what's up, this Agile thing? It's putting post-it notes on the wall. Yeah, we get a lot of that. It's just putting post-it notes on the wall. There's some of that, yes, there's some of that. To all the teams that we work with, we tell them that if you look at the dictionary, what you see is that Agile, what it says, the definition is the ability to move quickly and easily. That's what the dictionary says about Agile. And that's what we try to do with the teams we work. We try to help them move quickly and easily. I was working with one of the top 20 ASX companies recently. We did a survey with the senior leaders, a group of 50 people. And we asked them, how quickly and easily do you think your team moves? That's their own teams. How quickly and easily do you think the organization moves? And they had to score from 0 to 10. The scores went pretty. As a team, it was around 5, and as an organization, not even got to 4. But that's a successful company that is making money and is one of the top 20. What would be those scores if I asked them here? How quickly and easily does Computershare move? All right, just keep it to yourself. If I have to define, so that's the definition for me that represents really well what Agile is. If I had to explain to someone that haven't heard it what Agile is, I'll say it's a way of working. Agile is a way of working. And usually it's opposed to what's called command and control way of working. So command and control, Agile. Command and control sounds really bad, yeah? Sounds like military. But that's how we all have worked all our lives. It's a hierarchy of managers sending orders down the troop, yeah? And we report back up again. That's what command and control is. An Agile way of working, what it tries to do, is to put the decision-making in the team members. And leaders play a different role into that. Play more a servant leadership role. They're there to remove roadblocks for the people that has the information. So that would be my 2 minutes summary about what Agile is. And I'll expand on some of it through the presentation. The next thing we ask the teams we work is if you know where it started or in which area, when, anyone, when Agile started? You are very shy. Started in IT, started in software development, and started in 2001. And there was a group of people in Utah, that 17 software developers that came together and said, let's write this Agile manifesto, which you don't need to know by heart. But it was a response to the way IT systems were deployed in the past. So I don't know if this will sound familiar, but usually how IT systems are deploying organizations or were deploying organizations, you've got a bunch of business people writing requirements of what that system needs to do for 6 months, and then they give those requirements to the IT people, yeah? And they call it Project Phoenix or something like that. They get in a room for 18 months, yeah? And if they're on time, 18 months later, they come out of that room and say, here's the system you asked me to build. Yeah, sounds familiar? Yes, I'm exaggerating, but a bit of that, yeah? What happened after 18 months?
Completely wrong.
We've moved on, yeah, the business has moved on, we've got different customers, we've got different needs, yes? I'm exaggerating, but that's why Agile started, in a response to that way of working. So there was a group of software developers that got together and came up with the Agile Manifesto and said, we're uncovering better ways of developing software, by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work we have come to value, and they come up with those 4 values: individuals and interactions over processes and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, and responding to change over following a plan. And I love this bit, this is my favorite, because when we go to organizations, I said, I'm the Agile coach, especially they started looking at us, the risk manager, or is there a risk manager here, or the legal team, and oh my God, he's going to teach all the contracts, he's going to teach all the paperwork, all the minutes, and there's a bit of that. But I love they say, while there's value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So it's about finding that balance. So if you're in marketing, finance, operations, how does that apply to me? I think these guys talk about developing software. So if you look at it, there's only 2 words that talk about developing software, which is those 2 pairs of words. You can substitute by we're uncovering better ways of working and outcomes of a comprehensive documentation. And then it can be applied, in my view, to any team. One of the people that came out with a manifesto, Jeff Sutherland, wrote an article about Agile being a mindset and some of the key behaviors that enable that mindset. With all the teams that we work, we tell them, you can slip through my presentation. This is the slide that you need to pay attention, because these are the 5 things. These are the 5 things that we're going to try to do with your team working in an Agile manner. He talked about respect for the worth of every person. He talked about truth in every communication, transparency of all data, actions, and decisions, trust that each person will support the team, and commitment to the team and to the team goals, collaboration. So when Agile people started putting post-it notes on the wall, why do you think they do it?
Transparency.
Because we want to enable transparency. That's exactly right. When the Agile people do those daily huddles of 15 minutes and they get together to talk for 15 minutes, what do they try to do?
Collaboration.
Collaboration and communication. So the tools, the Agile tools, will enable that mindset, or those behaviors that enable that mindset. We talk about trust in many of the companies that we work. In very silly examples sometimes, I'm going to ask you, I don't know Computershare at all, but how high is your email traffic? Do you get a lot of emails every day? Yes. What do you think that is? Any ideas? No? Sometimes what do we try to do when we send an email? We try to cover what? So it means that perhaps there's not so much trust. Yeah? Perhaps. So yeah, you can see where we try to work with the teams is about finding those behaviors that enable the mindset. Same people came up with 12 principles about working in this Agile way of working. And if you're an Agile purist, just forgive me, because I've tweaked them a little bit to make them relevant for non-software development teams. But you can see that our highest priority is to satisfy the customer. That's where Agile teams should start. The highest priority is to satisfy the customer. Deliver outcomes frequently. So not that big bang approach, but how can we deliver outcomes frequently? Business people must work together daily through the project. Build projects around motivated individuals. This way of working is not going to work. Remember I said, The decision making is going to be done with the team members. So it's not going to work if you don't have a motivated team. The most efficient and effective method of communication is face-to-face. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes? How many times have you sent an email to someone that is sitting next to you? Next time you're about to do that, remember me. Remember my accent. Don't do it. Yes? Go and speak to them face-to-face. You're probably going to get better results. Outcomes are the primary measure of progress. Outcomes and not outputs. Most companies measure output. Sales team measuring number of appointments. Contact center measuring number of calls that we get. Finance team, how many reports do we get out? Yeah? But what we need to measure is the outcomes of that work, not the outputs. So try to always work on outcomes, not on outputs. Agile processes promote sustainable development. Simplicity is essential, and I'll talk about simplicity in a minute. Best outcomes emerge from self-organizing team, and at regular intervals the team reflects and adjusts accordingly. This will sound familiar for the software development people that are doing already Agile with the retrospectives. So the retrospectives try to enable that 12 principle. So if I have to summarize what is Agile in one slide, Agile is a mindset. It's not a methodology, it's a mindset that has described by 4 values, defined by 12 principles, and manifested through an unlimited number of practices. So the good news for all the teams that we work, and for you as well, if you already apply these mindsets and principles to your team or organization, you're already doing Agile. Even if you don't stick cards on the wall or stand up every morning for 15 minutes. And I've seen the opposite. I've seen teams that have all the paraphernalia, they've got all the cards, all the things, they've got a Scrum Master and a product owner and all that, and then they don't talk to each other, don't collaborate. You've got a manager telling them one by one what they need to do. Yes? To me, that's not doing Agile. I prefer a team that doesn't have any of that, but they collaborate well, there's transparency, they communicate well, there's trust, and there's respect. So, let's get into the business agility side of the presentation. How can business become Agile as a whole? So there's this slide from a guy called Charlie Wright. I don't know if you can see it very well, but we'll send the slides after. He talked about 3 waves of Agile. The first wave is about Agile teams. Second wave is Agile scale. Third wave is business agility. So the Agile teams wave started when one team in an organization is doing Agile. Usually it's the digital team or the software development team. Started in 2001 and still continues. There's companies that still work this way with one team isolated doing this Agile thing. Second wave is when companies look at each other and say, hang on, this is working. Why don't we get more teams working this way? And you've got 20 or 30 teams working in an Agile manner. Then you get Agile at scale. You get a few different teams, all with the scrums and with the methodology they use, all communicating well, all collaborating well. Still, it's not the point where a business can call themselves they're doing business agility. And there's more and more businesses asking themselves, how can we become Agile as a business? Not having just teams doing Agile, but how can we become Agile as a business? When Malcolm Turnbull got the Prime Minister the first time, I was going to say got elected, but he didn't get elected. When he got it the first time, yes, he said, I don't know if you remember this, the Agile coaches in the room will remember, he said, Australia needs to become an Agile country. Do you remember that? Well, I do, because as an Agile coach, that was a really good endorsement. And after that, 15 of the top 20 companies in Australia were releasing the half-year results, and I think most of them used the word Agile or agility in some way or form in their press release. We're going to be more Agile, or we will strive for business agility, blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure they knew all of them what we're talking about, but at least they put them in the right direction. So how do you achieve business agility? How can Computershare achieve business agility? To me, there's 3 key ingredients. The first one is true customer focus. The second one is a lean culture. And the third one is brave leadership. So I'm going to go through them very quickly. First one, true customer focus. There's 2 things in my view, that stops organizations from achieving true business agility. The shareholder value trap. When business think that the main purpose is to achieve shareholder value. Because the only way you're going to achieve those that thing is by two things. One, increasing prices, or two, reducing costs. We believe that a better way is by thinking how can we provide more value to the customer, and then the shareholder profit will follow after. The second thing that I think are killing organizations in terms of achieving organizational agility or business agility is the departmental silos. 90% of companies are organized this way. You've got the marketing team, the product team, the sales team, the finance team, yes, the legal team, same here. And what happens? We throw things each side of the fence to each other, yeah? Here's the product that I built, now you go and sell it, now you go and report on it, yes? And what happens usually, you can have each department achieving their KPIs and have a very unhappy customer at the end of that value stream. The second aspect that we believe will help organizations achieve business agility is to adopt a lean culture. And lean, you have heard lean and agile as, you know, almost in the same sentence. What's the difference between lean and agile? To me, they're cousins from the same family. And lean started in manufacturing. It's famous in Toyota, the Toyota system of work. If anyone has worked in manufacturing or has heard about the Toyota system of work, to me, a lean culture is implementing these three things. Build a culture where you're trying to eliminate waste, where you're trying to add value to the customer, or where you're trying to improve the flow of work. So if you try to do that as a business, that everything we do all the time is about eliminating waste, add value to the customer, or improving the flow of work, you've got a lot of gain there. And when I say waste, can you think in non-IT or non-manufacturing, what would be examples of waste? Can you think of examples of waste in the way we do work? Huh?
Waiting.
What was that?
Waiting.
Waiting, yes. Waiting for what? Huh? Yeah. But yes, so idle time will be one. What else? Rework, absolutely. What else? Overproduction. What about the way we work every day? I just don't think it from a manufacturing point of view. When we come to work, what do we think? Oh my God, this is such a waste. What am I doing this?
Too many meetings.
Too many meetings?
Too much paperwork.
Too much paperwork? That's exactly right. So imagine work in an organization where we all think about how can we remove that. How we can have less meetings, how we can have less reports, how we can reduce the rework. Yeah, that's a pretty cool place to be. When everyone's just not doing it because, you know, that's what we need to do. You know, we're going to get better at eliminating waste and improving the flow of work in an organization. The second thing that I believe as a culture that will help is simplicity. And not only the way we design services and products, but also the way we run internal processes, meeting, collaboration. So you said too many meetings. Sometimes we call a meeting to, you know, with 25 people to take a decision. Maybe it could have been done by, you know, 10 minutes conversation with the right people in the room. Or someone gets really well regarded because they've done a PowerPoint deck of 100 pages. Yeah? When they could have been done maybe in a piece of paper on the wall. Or someone is well regarded because they go home every day at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. Yes? If that's a culture that exists, then people will find ways to keep busy. The third one in terms of a lean culture is adopt a culture of continuous improvement. So agile teams work usually in cycles of two weeks. They go into 2 weeks. Is that how you? Yeah, 2 week sprints. How you do it here, Richard? Yeah. You can do the same with any department. You can work with their marketing, just looking at 2 weeks. So the idea is to work through this cycle as many times as you can. You You plan, you do, you check, and you act. It's called the Deming cycle. So we plan, we do, we check, and we react on what we've learned. So it's about creating that culture where we do that in every department of the team, where we just don't go the 18 months project Phoenix approach, but everything we do it in these short cycles where we can learn over and over and over. And the third one is brave leadership. I think that non-agile transformation will work if we don't have agile leadership at all levels of the organization. And I'll explain why. Usually you get to a managerial position where you're somehow like me. When you are over 40, when you work in an organization for a while, and then you get that managerial position, and they say, all right, you're a manager, and that's great, because now it's my time to tell everyone what to do, because I've always been told during 20 years what to do. I get the corner office. Yeah, so I get the office and I start sending emails from my office to everyone about where are we at with that, where are we at with that, yeah? And start, that's how leadership works, not here, not here. So it takes, we call it brave because it takes courage to relinquish all that and suddenly have a different approach to leadership. A much more servant leadership style, where you're not there dictating what everyone wants to do, but what you do is you hire smart people that they know what to do, and you're there to remove roadblocks. So with the leaders that we work, we talk about the sort of the three aspects that we believe leaders, agile leaders, should have, or the three things that we believe they should do. The first one is setting the vision. That's what, at all levels. I'm not talking just the CEO, I'm talking about frontline managers as well. So if you're leading a team, the first thing you should do is setting that vision for that team. Does anyone know what that photo is? But that, huh?
Spaceship.
Spaceship, which one? Do you know which one?
SpaceX.
SpaceX, yes, the one that's going to take us to Mars, yeah? Have you heard of Elon Musk? Yes? So he's the guy that last month said that he wants to colonize Mars. Yeah, he said that last month. Do you think he has any idea how he's going to do it? He has no idea. He has a vague idea. And that's what I said there. Actually, leaders have a clear vision, but they're comfortable with a vague plan. You don't need to know all the steps that you need to take. Just have a vision. Elon Musk says, I want to colonize Mars. I'm not too sure how we're going to get there. And he's got other visions as well about Tesla and about Solar City. Yeah? So to me, it's a great example of how a leader can set the vision for a team, for a company. Second thing that the leader should do is build a culture. So you set the vision, you build a culture that should be through values like trust, like respect, like honesty, like transparency. So it's about building that culture in the team. And the third thing that leaders, in my view, should do is improve the system of work. So don't chase people, chase the system. Improve the system. It's not the people that is broken. It's the system that is broken. It's not people that are lazy. It's not people that cheat. It's the system that makes them cheat. So how can you improve the system so people can give the best of themselves every day? That should be, to me, the three things that leaders could do. So I talk about very high level here, very airy-fairy if you like. I talk about mindsets and behaviors, and I want to show you some of the practices we use with some of the teams that we coach. So having a purpose, to me, is probably the first one. Purpose-led teams. We do some work with the teams about the purpose. What's the purpose for Computershare? Should I have to look at that? Do you guys know? Come on. Yes? No? Usually companies have a purpose. Do we have one? Do we know it? Okay. That helps in alignment. We work with teams as well. So this is a people and culture team, so HR team, and their own purpose is creating an awesome place to work. That's why they come to work every day. and links somehow vaguely to the organization, that organization purpose. But to them is, the organization, like you don't even know what the organization purpose is. Make it meaningful to the team. So for them is, we're coming every day to create an awesome place to work. That gets me out of bed, if I was a people and culture. Anyone from people and culture here, from HR? Does it get you out of bed? Yeah, cool. Daily standards. Daily standards, as I said, or maybe you've seen it with the software development team, they do that once a day for 15 minutes. Yeah, you can do it as well. That's a marketing team. That's a remote team. So you can see they've got a photo of the wall. They're connecting through their iPad with the team, Melbourne and Sydney. That's a legal team. This one on the right-hand side. What do? They talk, they talk for 15 minutes every day. Imagine the amount of emails that they're not sending to each other now, just by having those daily conversations. But it needs to fit the business needs. So I'm sure you guys have enough to talk in your teams for 15 minutes every day. It's just about it feels weird at the beginning. But once you try, you'll see how the communication and collaboration improves very quickly. Kanban walls, we use these with many teams, especially operational teams, where you visualize the work. So this is a sustainability team. Can be applied for marketing, can be applied for people and culture. You've got all the initiatives, the 90 days initiatives of a team, and then you go into 2-week cycles to do, in progress, done. They meet every morning, 15 minutes around, and they have a chat. Everything is visible. Remember the principles: transparency, is trust. We trust people is gonna do it. We communicate at the wall. So it's just applying those tools that the software development people created to any team in the organization. As you can see already, a lot of what Agile is about visualization of work. It's making the work visible. This is a contact center, the one that I was talking to you about at the beginning, the REA contact center. If you're not familiar with contact center, they always have a lot of systems about rostering and someone called workforce management person that tells everyone what time they need to come and what time they need to go for the toilet break and all that. This was our workforce management system. This grid. They will put what time they want to come with an avatar, and they will select it themselves. According to what? According to the customer needs. If there were a lot of calls, they knew they had to put more people. If there's less calls, they can decide. People can take decisions. We don't need a manager telling us all the time what to do. They've got the stats, they've got the FYIs, they've got the customer satisfaction, they've got everything they need to do their job. And it's visual, it's visible. Therefore, they can talk about it as a team. So Agile a lot is about visualization of work. Now, you need to build the right one. So if you're working with a CEO and his direct reports, the executive leadership team, you might want something more that looks like that. It's called an Obeyo room, which has all the main projects of a team, and maybe by horizons, or maybe by functions, however they want to. I don't see a CEO standing in front of a wall like that. I think they would like something more like this, yes? They're not the CEO of Computershare here, but probably they like something more like that. But it can be applied to any teams. And I want to give you this quick example. This is a BAU team, business as usual, finance team. Anyone from finance here? No? They're doing reports? A finance team. We catch up with the finance person and say, what does your team do? They're a team of 12 people all doing sort of the same actions every day, yeah? So 12 people, 10 to 12 people all doing the same. I said, what do you think will help you this way of working? How do you see this working for you? And she said, I love to see everyone's capacity. I spend a lot of time each morning going one by one, how are you today? What do you need to do? And of course, they all have their own silos, and you only do this process and you only do that process, and that's how we always want. All right, so let's visualize it. So we put people's avatars or names here on the left, and we put the actions they take on the top, the actions they do. And then we came up with this thing with emojis, where the emojis, you can see the yellow things, the emojis say, I can help, I'm under the palm, I'm cool, I'm busy, I need training. So before the stand-up, the ladies themselves put the emojis against their name and the tags. So in 1 minute, the leader of that team knows who's got capacity and who can help who. And that was the first stand-up. The second stand-up, the leader didn't even need to say anything. The ladies themselves said, "Oh, Estelle, I can see that I can help you because you're on the palm with that process. I've got a lot of experience, or I've got a lot of capacity to do that." And suddenly you're doing a stand-up of 15 minutes that is working for a finance reporting team in that case. Now, some people ask me at this point, but you need to trust that the people will put the right emoji. Yes, because that's one of the principles that we trust. And you'll be surprised that when you treat people like adults, they behave like adults, and they tell you exactly if they've got capacity or not. They don't need to cheat the system anymore, because they can choose. Same with an IT service desk. I don't know if you have a service desk here, but it's the same. We're starting visualizing the queues and how many cases we had. Before that, the managers was telling them how many cases individually they were doing, just by visualizing how many they had, and not by making it, an individual thing. They half the number of cases in 1 week. Just by not making it individual, but making it a team-based exercise. Another sales team doing the rostering themselves. You're just visualizing and 10 people take decisions. A sales team with a sales pipeline. Each card there is a customer, the lead, where it came from, the amount of money. They've got an avatar with the person that is responsible, but they can change every day, and someone can say, "I can help you again." Because you set up this framework where people have conversations every day and then start collaborating rather than competing against each other. Other tools like an initiative radar. I don't know, Computershare is a big company. There'll be a lot of things coming at the same time. Yeah, there'll be a lot of departments working on many things. This is a beautiful way of visualizing that. So you've got 3 months up here, now. So 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, 1 week, now. So this was a contact center. Each card is one of the projects coming in. No on an Excel spreadsheet, no on the intranet. There visually, everyone can see, so they can prepare from a training point of view, from a resources point of view, from any particular aspect they need to do. Same, but with sales, so targets, approach, information supply, negotiation. A recruitment team, visualizing, all the steps of a recruitment, from sourcing, interviewing, police checks. You guys know better than me. Yeah? Can you have that on an Excel spreadsheet? Of course you can. But you lose that collaboration, that someone's coming in and saying, "Hey, hang on, that role, that's really important for me, and I can see who's manager, can I talk to you?" So it's about having more conversations more often, all the time. Other tools, prioritization sessions, value stream mapping, retrospective. So if you're from software development, you will do retrospectives. You can do the same with the marketing team. We use it to understand the state of a team. What are things that are working? What are things that are not working? Software development usually do that every 2 weeks. With software development, with non-software development, we might recommend every 4 to 6 weeks rather than 2 weeks. 2 weeks probably is too often. Or decide how often do you want. Each team can decide. A3 coaching is a beautiful tool that comes from Toyota as well, about how to mentor and coach people. And if you want to, in interest of time, if you want more information about some of these tools, I'm happy to stay and sort of walk you through them. Improvement Kata, business Kanban model, etc. So I probably have one more slide. If we're on time. Yes, Ed? Good. Because a lot of times when I do this type of calls, of talks, people say, "How can I convince my boss to do Agile?" Yes. So you can show them this slide. If you have a boss that doesn't want to do Agile, you have to show them this slide, and I'm going to walk you through it. So this is the market share of online dating in the USA. Who is familiar with online dating here? Not in the US though. In January 2013, you had three main players. The sort of green lane is OkCupid. Yeah, familiar? OkCupid. They had 60% of the market. The number two was a company called Zeus, 28% of the market, and the number three was a company called Match.com with 18% of the market. And they were, going quite stable. That's the market share. Goes for a few months, and suddenly something happens in July 2013. What is that? What is it? You can read it, yes? Tinder. Tinder came out in July 2013. And it didn't take Tinder 2 years or 18 months or 12 months to get the number one position of the market. It took 2 months. They became the number one player in the US in 2 months since launch to number one. So now, a lot of the organizations we work, they've got the board meetings every 3 months, every quarter. That's a very, yes. And then we tell them, if you're in that business, you're done. If you wait 3 months to take decisions, you're out. Someone has come and has taken over. Now, not all business are digital, not all business has so much, but it's happening everywhere. It's happening with the taxi industry, with Uber, and with the Airbnbs, and all that disruptions happening. I don't know what's Computershare, if it's something that can disrupt us, but I don't know. Now, there's a twist of this story, there's a twist of this slide, which is the owners of Tinder is a company called IAC, is a digital company in the US. They also own OkCupid and Match.com. They're also the owners of the number one and number three 6 months before. I'll let you ponder on that one. That means that they chose to disrupt themselves. They had 80% of the market. Any company with 80% of the market, what would they do? They will defend. Yeah? They will say, well, we 80%, how can we defend? These guys were smart enough to say, hang on, something's going to do something with this swipe right, swipe left thing. So we better do it ourselves. So they launched a competitor to themselves that became the number one. So when I link this to Agile, why do I link this to Agile? Because what I said about the managers and the team members at the beginning about this command and control organization. In a command and control organization, what will leaders be doing? They'll be looking at the reports that get sent back up from the troops every day. In an Agile organization, leaders look at the future. They look at what's going to happen in 6, in 12, in 18 months' time, and they've got the mind space and the mindset to look at the future, to work in what we call the Horizon 3 and 2. So in Agile organizations, you get the team members managing the Horizon 1, and you get the leaders working in the Horizon 2, Horizon 3. And this is what happened for this company. And that's why they could disrupt themselves. Because they all were worried about the numbers of today or the shareholder value of today. They could be looking at what's going to happen in the future. And that's it. That's all I have. So, thank you.